Hello, everyone. This is Matt, your local friendly gamer, and hopefully your start of the year is going rather well. Mine definitely could be a bit better, unfortunately. And I know that there quite a few people could definitely be a lot better if recent news and current event stuff is anything to go by. But I am going to kind of get straight into it, mainly because I do want this to kind of be of a two for one kind of day. They're both going to be discussion streams. This one is going to be my kind of like my look back into 2024 and to kind of try to hopefully get some sort of idea of what 2025 is going to be like. Um, I mean, short and to the point, I still have no clue what 2025 is going to be like. I am trying to kind of get a little bit of a better sense given how scattered last year was. And it was a pretty scattered year. I honestly thought that things would pick up after 2023, but things got definitely a lot more hectic. Um, uh, Primarily through kind of two things. Well, I mean, in some ways, kind of three things. The first thing, first and foremost, was pretty much everything revolving around my grandmother. Uh, just going into this year, her health was declining incredibly fast to the point where, going into this year, she was living with us. And up and I think until I think April, it was around that time where it just really wasn't possible anymore. So we were spending like the basically the next 2 months, transitioning her into hospital into assisted living care. And that was where she basically remained until her eventual passing of September of this past year. And we had her, her memorial service the following October, and that definitely hit, me and my family pretty hard, quite a bit, especially since it was only a few years past where, my grandfather passed away, and I was also coming off of very important surgeries that my mom had on both of her legs, which resulted me in kind of assuming a caregiver role that I still technically have. And It's a little hard to kind of determine the end date of that because now my mom's kind of experiencing some new aches and pains, but that's something that is neither here or there. The other thing was too is that especially because with the fall that my grandmother had, the July of 2023, she could no longer live on her own and she was living with us. So basically, from April all the way up to pretty much the beginning of December of last year, so basically a month ago, we were doing nothing but clearing out the house. Now, uh, my mom and my sister made more regular trips than I did, and than me and my dad did, and my dad even kind of like in between, you know, the amount of visits they did and the amount of visits I did. But I still had to be kind of available to do a lot of stuff because it required a lot of storing, a lot of like going through storage and like all sorts of the house because there was like a lot of, despite how small the house was, they had like decades worth of clover. They never threw anything out. Um, and even had my uncle assist on a couple of occasions. Like he dedicated a week in April and August towards helping us out. But yeah, it's just it definitely, because of the amount of time that had to be spent clearing all that stuff out. Not to mention that while my grandmother was still with us, I basically made as many visits as I could. Um, it definitely meant that I couldn't not only have been as available to stream, but I also couldn't have worked as regularly on freelance media content that I would have liked in order to free up time for streaming. And the freelance media stuff was kind of the second thing that was kind of because I was taking care of a lot of big projects the past couple of years. I had two big projects, going into 2024 from last year that I did manage to finish, by springtime. But then I had, other big projects, throughout the summer. I actually had two out of state trips, one for one of the projects that I'm still working on and editing, and the other for a film festival for one of the projects that I recently finished. Um, and instead of like having things be a little bit of smooth sailing, I just kind of replaced the projects that I finished with other projects that I am still working on, as well as some other ongoing stuff. And it really got to the point that I honestly had really trouble keeping up with like media management. And of course, that got further complicated by like various hard drive failures. Basically, the hard drives that were failing were the hard drives that I was saving projects to when I was done working on them. And combined with the fact with other various computer issues, like I had a couple of scares post updates with the current laptop that I'm streaming games on, as well as this discussion video. And after like an OS update, the cross exFAT, the cross format for drives between Windows and Mac, it for whatever reason it's deciding to be extra fickle, especially on the Mac side, which is causing its own fair share of issues. So I had to invest like additional money and time in getting alternative drives to kind of help mitigate the situation so that I don't end up losing too much stuff. And it's something that unfortunately I was faced with again as of yesterday. So that was, on top of like, the family stuff and, stress from that, I was also getting like additional stress, from, the stuff that is basically kind of becoming the side hustle that is becoming closer to a day job, but it isn't at the point where I could still support myself just yet. So it's like I'm working the hours to hopefully get to that point, but it's just I'm not there. So I'm putting a lot of time and effort towards something that hasn't yield like equivalent results that hasn't been yielding equivalent results since I did started. But it's like it's like the curve is getting better these past few years, but it's just it's because of the amount of time that it's been taking me to get to this point. It's like the progress that I'm making hasn't really been felt as much as progress as it probably is, because all things considered, in terms of stuff that kind of went on for both, in some regards, freelancing being one of them, this technically has been one of my best years. It didn't quite feel like it. And I think that could be said with a lot of accomplishments and towards, personally, professionally and stuff involving this channels, that there were certainly great times and accomplishments to be made. But I think this year, out of all of the years that I've had so far, it just, not this year, last year, it just didn't feel like it. It didn't feel like an accomplishment. And I feel like, there might be some internal mental disconnect or even some imposter syndrome stuff going on. And I mean, that sort of stuff was kind of always lingering ever since, I graduated college. I worked very hard towards a dual degree in bachelor's and a master's degree. And then I just had like the worst burnout ever. And because of that burnout, I couldn't get myself really going the way that I wanted to, and because I had to really focus on paying off of my student loans right then and there, I had to start at retail. And hence, during like all the day jobs that I've had leading up to the point where I, had to kind of then start taking care of stuff more directly with family for a while. So it is one of those things, and I've gone through this enough in various updates, especially in the October update. So I don't want to go too far into that again. Um, but it was certainly a very, very difficult year. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that I haven't had nearly as many streams as I wanted. Not as many discussion streams. Pokemon Violet has been the only playthrough that I've been able to do. And to be fair, it is not only an RPG series, it's also been a rather long RPG series. So while I haven't been able to do as many parts, I think I've only done 20 as opposed to the 23 that I did last year. And even then, that was a decrease from what I did the year before. But at the same time, all of the parts were longer. So I probably had similar runtime, especially because there weren't a whole lot of Kingdom Hearts parts that I had that were that long. So, and a lot of the streams that I did in a couple of years past, they usually range between like an hour and 30 to 2 hours and 30. And it was like special event and multiplayer stuff where they were even remotely a bit longer. And I did have some discussion streams, and some that did, go quite a considerable length. So, it wasn't all bad. Again, it wasn't all bad. And I mean, I've easily had my best year of Extra Life. Although I only did 2 donation streams, and they were both Extra Life, and they also weren't nearly as long as I had them in the past. Last year was definitely the best stream wise, but I think because I was one of the few volunteers that went to like our first weekend out in Combo Breaker, which was it's a local fighting game tournament convention that just happened to be like literally like not too far down like one of the streets that my house is on, at the hotel there near a large shopping mall. And because I was able to volunteer for a good chunk of the weekend, I basically met the initial goal that I had and then some. So that by the time I did, game day, it was just adding a little bit more onto it. And I mean, I definitely do have to be careful in the future when it comes to stuff involving a donation wheel, because it got a little hairy to the point where it's like I had to split the donation between the amount that I would gear towards my own page and the amount that I geared towards other people's pages, which is a good strategy though, especially if I were to do that sort of thing again, because I wanted to revisit some of the game show games that I had when I did it for Able Gamers. So just to kind of reiterate as kind of the plans as far as going to this year, sorry, I'm just turning off notifications on my phone just to not be too distracted by them. Basically, once I still have part 2 of the Pokemon Violet playthrough with the expansion. So once that is done, once all the story stuff involving that is done, that'll be my last playthrough for a good while. The biggest reason behind that is, unfortunately, I still have Windows 10 on my laptop, but in order for me to feel comfortable in upgrading it, I have to like kind of go through a bit of a mental checklist to make sure that I can comfortably update it and to where it has the highest rate of success and the lowest rate of like app compatibility sort of nonsense. I mean, it's already bad enough that, my C drive cannot stay consistent on how much space it has available. It currently has less than 4, and I swear that I didn't like put anything on it. But at other days, it will just be like anywhere from like 12 to 15. So I need to find a way to get it into 12 to 15 prior to updating to Windows 11, because I think that's the drive that I need for everything to install on. but I also have to upgrade a variety of other things because while I do keep stuff like Adobe Creative Cloud, OBS, and all that stuff regularly updated, there's a bunch of stuff that isn't. And I need to see if that needs to be updated or just straight up deleted, and all the like. And, I haven't opened up, my Steam library on my PC in like a year or two. So now I have to plug in the hard drive that has all the games in it, let all those updates run, see what games that I could need to delete from like the library and stuff, especially if, maybe down the road if I want to start streaming games using the Steam account, my Steam, which I really should, or at the very least get a Steam Deck or a ROG Ally or something, or like basically the Switch competitor device that allows you to play PC games on it, so that I could start using those accounts for a change. But it's like the money's, man, my money's not right for a PS5. They're already talking about the Switch successor being announced, in a couple months from now. If that is going to be the case, it's like, my money's not right for any new platform, and it's like I really hope it doesn't come to where I would suddenly need money to replace my laptop, because otherwise I may have to find an alternative way of live streaming for a while. And there is an idea that I do have that may not necessarily be the best, but it is something that I could work with should it come to that. But I think the biggest thing that I wouldn't be able to do is screen share, unfortunately. It would just be like me either I have to choose between either me talking into a camera or me like having my iPad camera or like a Bluetooth connection to my phone and having the game capture on my iPad, because my iPad does have the app where I could support a game capture through an HDMI feed. I just need to find a capture card that will work specifically with iPad. So, and I do have apps that I could try using now for that too. So there is a workaround if things go worse, but that, it's like I can't wait too much longer to update to Windows 10, because it's like I have to update by October of this year, or I have to start paying for updates, and I think that only goes into like the next 3 years, like where you have to then pay more for updates each successive year. And it sucks because I think this is like the quickest that they are forcing people into their newer OS. And it's just like, man, kind of sucks. And I mean, thankfully my laptop is telling me, yes, you can indeed run Windows 11. But it's just like, there's just a lot of stuff that I have to worry about in regards to that. So that's why I'm holding off on doing any sort of specific playthroughs after Pokemon Violet. Now, there will be some stuff that I will be interested in doing in the meantime. After the story mode of Pokemon, after all the story stuff in Pokemon Violet, I am entertaining on having extra parts to kind of do like the stuff involving like, catching Pokemon, either roaming around Paldea or doing like the Pokedex requirements for both Kitakami and Blueberry Academy for that photographer for trainer side quest sort of deal. I have been wanting to get back into the solo mode gates for Master Duel, as well as to have some Master Duel matches of Yu-Gi-Oh! I've also been wanting to kind of get back into practice with some fighting games. So I think instead of doing stuff specifically on the playthrough end, I'll probably have like a whole bunch of like one-off streams or mini-series or like kind of continuations of older playthroughs to kind of shuffle things around a bit. A lot of one-off stuff. If I get a game that I'm particularly interested in, I know Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a classic game collection coming out in February. I know there's now going to be the House of the Dead 2 remake coming out in spring. I'll probably do like kind of a reaction streams to those kind of games. Definitely going to be leaning a little heavier on the discussion streams this year until I can comfortably, upgrade to Windows 11 and see that everything's going to be all right. Afterwards, or at least if it doesn't, then I could see about alternatives going forward. I hope it goes well because, especially lately, I kind of need I need a Windows platform in order to read some of my hard drives that I need to use professionally. So, um, I really hope that they certainly everything will work out, but I won't know until I get there, unfortunately. It's something that I'm gonna have to try out sooner rather than later. And I've already been pushing it to later anyway. And I think the other thing, especially because with the increase in freelance work, as well as a little bit of a more of a focus on doing stuff for charity. I am having any future playthrough, provided that it's possible, done via wheel spin, and I gonna do wheel spins based on the incentive that I raised. I'm gonna be setting my goal to 1,000 as a default each year. And the default spin incentives will be at $250, $500, and $1,000. I'm going to have basically shorter game spins and longer game spins. Shorter game spins are usually like platformers, arcade style games, Metroidvania games that can reasonably be done in less than 20 hours. So basically less than 10 2-hour parts. Anything longer than that, which are usually RPGs and longer adventure style games, will be in the longer game spin category. And I feel like with every 2 to 3 shorter game spins, I'll add a longer game spin. And if whenever I do pass $1,000, I'm just going to have every incentive, every additional spin incentive be like $500, or just any sort of like special game incentive, because I did add in 2 special incentives. I'm getting close to both the lifetime raised $2,000 and $2,500 raised, so I added those incentives in to set aside some special streams for when I meet those. So I think it's like $235 and $755 respectively for those 2 incentives. And then I think the next lifetime raise incentive would be at $5,000. I don't think I'll meet that this year though, because it took me 4 years to get over 1,500. So, but that is something in the future, hopefully. But yeah, I am going to be focusing a lot more on discussion streams. I am hoping to have a variety of those. There are some involving screen share that I would like to do, such as compiling like personal tier lists and personal icebergs. I kind of want to try to lean back into edited content at some point. Definitely not now, and probably not within this year, but I kind of want to sow the seeds for that, especially if I do end up live streaming less. I want something to kind of hopefully fill in the void a little bit. Especially if my averages of streaming are kind of going to be being more regular 1 to 2 month stream. As opposed to 2 to 3 or to 4, which was what I was kind of hoping it would be. I did, I was going. I think part of what made this year very demotivating and depressing is that I was going into this past year um, pretty excited. Things didn't weren't measuring up as well as I would have liked, but they were at least looking promising. And I think second half, past 2 months especially, have just been such an exhaustive stretch of just you know not meeting my own expectations, which I probably set a little too high, or probably didn't stop and kind of remeasure them before things started getting like too exhausting. And again, where I'm falling in a trap of kind of getting stuck in my own head, and where I kind of put myself in a bit of a negative feedback loop, which I'm still trying to get out of. Again, some of the stuff that I was kind of going into in the past couple of weeks, it didn't really start off the best. So, you know, uh, I am doing my best to try to kind of hopefully pick myself up, but this was definitely a year that I was not looking forward into starting just because of how the last one ended. Because usually, even like in the past few years, where even if it didn't exactly go the way I was kind of hoping to, there was at least enough going on to make me feel excited for the next year. And while that should still be the case, it's both personally and professionally, I think because I couldn't get nearly as much as I was hoping to this past year, and now I suddenly, instead of trying to make up for 1 or 2 years, I feel like I'm making up for 2, 3, or 4 years. And in some cases, I still feel like I'm trying to make up after this past decade after graduating college. But, you know, that is one of those things where it's like, especially when you think where you're at a certain point in your life, but you're actually like somewhere else. Uh, the disconnect, the whole disconnect, mental disconnect, can definitely screw you with you. And while it has screwed with my head in the past, uh, this past year has been the worst that it has been in quite a while. And I am hoping to try to, you know, see what I could do about it. To try not to kind of get stuck, in kind of a place where I don't want to be, and knowing that, if I want things to be better, if I want to start kind of fixing little parts of my life bit by bit, it's gonna be all up to me, So, and I hope that it reflects that in some regards in my channel. Um, so yeah, as far as right now, I am working on trying to get the Pokemon Violet playthrough done first and foremost. I'm gonna try to focus on having at least some stuff in the pipeline while I work in the process of updating my computer. Planning to hopefully have a fallback plan if the updates do not go well, uh, and see where I could go from there. One of the other things that I have to do is that something that I found out a few months ago is that for all the nice features that StreamYard has added, which is the service that I'm using for like the discussion videos, they also kind of forced people into like a new payment plan that is like at the very least double of what they already paid. So I am looking at alternatives. I am currently favoring Restream.io because it's basically what I needed. Just within the same price range, give or take a few things. Wave Video also looks very promising. But I have accounts set aside for both of them, but uh, I I have um I still need to test them, and I want to test them out before June, because that's when my StreamYard account renews. And if it renews, well, I guess I may as well be using it for another year, but I hope it doesn't, because I want to transition into something that costs less money. Because I'm already bleeding through the nose in terms of personal and professional expenses as it is. Um, and yeah. Uh, so as far as what I do currently have planned, um, because yeah, I mean, I wanted this to be a bit of a quicker video um than it ended up being, but I do not because yeah, I was hoping to do a 2 for 1 today, but I think especially because it's already 30 minutes, and there's only really so much time that I have to just talk in front of a camera with kind of minimum interaction. I know some people are watching and they are, leaving comments. I hope you're having a good start of your year as well. Thank you very much for tuning in. The next stream that I do want to do is a discussion of the Sonic movie trilogy. But I feel like it's best to do that after having a little bit of a clear head. And the fact that I kind of had to talk a little bit, a bit of a depressing subject matter, it's kind of very hard to lead in a conversation about, 3 movies, because I am talking about, since I haven't had an opportunity to talk about the first two, I'm grouping them in with the trilogy. And then afterwards, I'm not sure, because I know F-Zero 99 still has their winter event, but if I can't catch a stream of that, I'll probably just go right back into Pokemon Violet so that I can continue on with the expansion stuff. I think the seasonal Splatfest that they're cycling through after the Grand Splatfest is also going on, but I don't think I'll be able to catch that either. So I think hopefully sometime weekend or next week I will do the Sonic movie trilogy conversation stream, and then we are going to continue on with Pokemon Violet. Oh yeah, and just so you know, I also updated my Extra Life link. I also kind of trimmed through the fat of the links that I have available as far as social media is concerned, especially because a lot of them I'm not currently using. So I kind of want to kind of trim that down for now. But if I do find myself using additional social media, I will re-add links or add newer links as appropriate. But I want to kind of, especially because I've just been struggling trying to keep up with social media and to kind of try to take advantage of accounts that I've set aside for all of my stuff, because I want to have more focused accounts, but I'm having trouble focusing on new accounts. So that update has been incredibly slow. It's been something that I really want to be going in. It started since 2020. It's been nuts. But yeah, so sorry that this was a little bit of a downer of an update, and this is going off of another downer of an update in October. But I am really hoping that in whatever ways, big and small, that this year will hopefully be better in some regards. I have to be prepared for when it doesn't. I have to be a little bit more prepared for when it doesn't, as stuff as recent as yesterday has already showed me. Um, and for anyone that is currently going through, all of the winter storm stuff in the Mid Atlantic, Southeast, and especially to everyone that is really having a tough time out in Los Angeles with all the wildfires. I hope you all stay safe. I hope you are able to be in the realm of safety, connect with your loved ones, make sure you're in a place where you can be able to start your process of recovery. Uh, uh, and even if things aren't as serious, as especially with winter weather and stuff, definitely be safe outside. Stay warm, be mindful of slick conditions and all that stuff. And yeah, let's try to make the most of 2025 as the best we can. As I will sure be telling myself throughout the year. But with all that said, thank you for taking the time to hear me ramble on again about why I haven't been streaming as frequently, as well as why I've been seemingly low energy for quite a bit. I've been trying my best to make something of what I like doing. So I really hope to continue to do so. And yep, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful evening. Have yourself a safe weekend. Hopefully, I will be able to see you all again soon. And take care.